Hey, Jeff here. So I had a few minutes. I figured I'd make a quick video here. I don't have a ton to show, but I did get one thing in. And then I wanted to get involved in, I guess, I've seen people do these type of videos with the Discogs Randomizer. And I actually watched one this morning and I figured, hey, I did that the other day. All right, so what did come in, and I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, when I picked up the two albums by Fight, the newer release, I put one online and was looking to get the first one since I missed out on that back on Record Store Day. Found and purchased a copy, and that came in. So I do have now the first Record Store Day Fight release. So now I have both of them. So now I feel like I'm complete. My life can go on and be happy. So anyway, yes, this is the Rob Halford and after post Judas Priest. And so now both of the vinyl releases for Fight I do have in my collection. Now, you know, people, when they mail albums, they'll put stiffeners in there. Some people put, you know, extra cardboard. Some people put album covers. Some people put actually albums that are in rough shape or, you know, that are just what they would consider throwaway type albums. Sorry, Steve. Anyway, so yes, I opened this, and the first thing that I saw was this. Now, I immediately recognized the face. I didn't until I read it. So, Joe Sample, you send me this, you know, 2 months ago. I had no clue what this was. I would have had to stop and look it up. But the fact is that not too long ago, and I showed this in a video, maybe about 2 months ago, I picked up one of his albums at a thrift store. I recognize it as being something that's out of the ordinary for the typical stuff you see at thrift stores, the classicals, the Percy Face, all that stuff. And so it made me stop and look at it, and then I realized what it was, and it was jazz, and I bought it and loved it. I thought this was a great album. So, what better to have as a stiffener than another album by somebody that you recently discovered that you really liked? So I thought, this is cool. This was on there also, and this got me really excited. Can you imagine a Halloween album as a stiffener? But alas, cover only. Yeah, I need to get me this on vinyl one day. I got the case for it. Now, so what we're talking about with the Discogs Randomizer, people have done this, and I think it's fun. I did it not too long ago. I work from home now, so hey, nobody's around. I can listen to records for a long period of time. Let's let the randomizer choose the destiny of what the day holds. And so you go on there and you hit random and it pulls up something in your list. Now, of course, in my case, I have to hit randomizer usually a handful of times because not only do I have my vinyl records in there, but I also have the CDs and videos and things like that. So it's got my entire music collection. So I'll have to hit it a couple times until something comes up that's vinyl. And this is what I came up with the other day. First choice, David Cassidy's Cherish. Now, if you're any length of time been watching my channel, randomly I pull up my love for the Partridge Family and David Cassidy and things along that line. I grew up in that era where we watched the Partridge Family as kids. When it came out on DVD 12, 13, 14 years ago, I bought them all on DVD. My family and I, specifically my older son at the time, who is no longer with us, he and I used to watch it, and he really liked it. So there's that connection there. And then they had reissued all their CDs, and I started buying the CDs. And now I've got most of the records. I got one, I think, in the previous video I showed. And so, yes, I have the David Cassidy. I don't have all of his solo stuff on record. I do have it on CD or digital, but I do have the first few because you see those all the time in thrift stores and record stores. Yeah, great stuff. You know, this is back when he first broke away and was doing his own music. If you know much about the history of the Partridge Family stuff, they tweaked his voice a little in the studio to make it sound a little higher so that it sounded more poppy for that time frame. So when you jump over and listen to his solo albums like this, you find it's a little more adult sounding and sultry and deeper. That kind of threw people in the beginning, but he was really more of a rocker who was forced into this bubblegum pop 70s sound. Not to say that these albums are rock, hard rock, but at the time they were rock in comparison to the bubblegum stuff that the Partridge Family is putting out. So he sounds a little more adult, a little more sultry sounding and deeper. And so yes, it's a different sound, but it still has that great stuff from those days. And then up next came number 2 was Expect No Mercy by Nazareth. Now Nazareth is a band that I pretty much ignored all of their history. Back in the day, in the 80s, on MTV, they would play their songs and we didn't like them. They were not hard rock enough. They were not metal enough. They didn't have enough hair or spandex or anything. So we weren't paying attention to them. Never got into them. Never listened to them. And then recently, in the past year, I discovered a bunch of their albums in the $3 bin at a local store, and I scooped them up. They were in great condition. This was one of them. I think I grabbed, 4 or 5 of their catalog. For the price, I thought, let's give it a shot, because I hear people giving them the thumbs up, and I've gotten a wider range of musical tastes. I've gotten more into classic rock over the years, so I got these, and I was like, wow, you miss out on this stuff. It's just some great hard rock. I mean, actually, in the recent video, I showed where I got the live album. That was pretty rough. Even after I cleaned it, it skipped and everything. But there's some enjoyable moments there that I still can get. But so the point is, I have a much greater respect for them. So yes, this was great. That came up, gave that a spin. Kept hitting the randomizer. This came up. Killed by Cain. This glare is killing me. This is a Christian band from the 90s, I believe, 93. And it's the only album they released. I have to admit, at the time, I wasn't a huge fan of this. Let me give you the backstory. The band, prior to this, before they got signed with this label, put out a bunch of demo tapes under the name White Ray. I love White Ray. I love all of the stuff that they did. This was a recent reissue on CD of all of their demos. It's a double disc set. It's got everything you need on it. And I mentioned it when it came out, but inside it, it's got a big interview with the band, and the interview actually came from a magazine that I published back in the 80s and early 90s, because I was friends with these guys. Used to talk to the singer all the time on the phone. Was a big fan. And so when Retroactive went to put this out, Scott Waters was involved in it. Scott and I are friends, and so I sent him a bunch of the pictures in here, and he used my interview and added a bunch of stuff in the book for that. So I'm a real big fan of this. And then when this came out, it was produced by Dale Thompson of Bride, and it had a different sound. The vocal style was a lot rougher and gruffer. The time, it just did not appeal to me as much. But I must say, okay, it got released on vinyl, and I have to say, in revisiting it over the past few years on vinyl, I have grown to greatly appreciate this album. It is actually, I don't know why I poo-pooed it back in the day. It is much better than I remembered it being, and I really enjoy it. So, what happened to this band? Well, a few months back, I got a friend request on Facebook, and it was called Killed Cain or something like that. And I was like, interesting. Well, turns out it was John, the singer from the band, and he's telling me that the band is back together and recording a new album. Now, he sent me some of the rough tracks, and it sounds like a totally different band. His vocal styling is much more mature, and song structure-wise, it's a different feel. But I really dig it. And so I did mention, I said, you might actually want to think about maybe considering renaming the band, just because the sound is so different, and it would probably, for people who maybe had a distaste for this, it would not turn them off, and then it would be like introducing a new band, because it really kind of is. We're talking many years later now, and we're talking a new sound. I don't know, I just do it out there. Lo and behold, a couple months later, he comes back. He's still been sharing tracks with me, and he says the band decided to change their name. So they took that counsel and said, yes, that might be a good idea to go. And now the band is called Kentucky Hillbilly Revival. Now, sounds kind of interesting. The logo is killer there. Look them up. They are on Bandcamp. They have a song on there, because they have been mixing the songs for the new album. and it is they've sent me a handful of them, but there is one online. I've got some rough mixes, and I'm really digging the new stuff. Kentucky Hillbilly Revival. Again, you have to put out of your mind White Ray and Killed by Cain, because it is a totally different sound. It's heavy at times, and at other times it's different. So I'm really digging it, and it's going to be some great stuff. I just hope that people get a good chance to hear it. So check them out. That's the news on that. Last up was the Hank Lockie Band. How lucky can you get? Hank Lockie is one of the early, in my framework at least, one of the early Christian rock bands from the early 80s that we listened to. They're on the Toonsmith label from Canada. I believe I think their band is actually from Canada. And we discovered them way back in the early days of Christian rock, when Christian metal was first coming out. This was one of the bands, Hank Lockie's Life or Death, the other album prior to this, was one of the albums that everybody listened to. It was a hard-edged, hard rock album. And it was just one of those things that everybody had to have. And so I picked up all of his vinyl after I got back into buying records again. And so I have this. It's just great fun stuff. And I have hooked up with him more than a decade ago online, and while he still plays music, he's kind of not doing the same kind of music. So lots gone on in the past 100 years since these albums have come out. But anyway, great stuff. That's what the Randomizer did for me. I think I'm going to do it again, because it was quite kind of fun to see, where it took me. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Rock on.